All right, so get ready, because today we're diving into some seriously cool ideas.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
We're talking about how AI could actually run entire societies.
Not just like some far-off future stuff.
Exactly.
Huh.
We're talking about right now, grappling with the big what ifs.
Which is exactly what our listener wants to unpack.
Totally. They sent us this incredible analysis, really detailed stuff.
And it doesn't just, paint one picture of like AI utopia.
Yeah.
It lays out all these different models, like how AI could actually be in charge.
Okay, so no more hypotheticals about AI making your coffee. We're talking running governments.
Economies, the whole shebang.
Our listener is clearly fascinated by this, and honestly, who can blame them?
I know, right? It's
Ah.
fascinating.
So to really kick things off, I think one of the most interesting thing your research does is contrast two very different approaches, right?
Yeah.
One where the AI is like the all-knowing ruler versus another where it works within like a more democratic system.
Absolutely. And that contrast is so important because it highlights this tension that we're probably going to keep coming back to,
Okay.
which is this tension between pure efficiency and individual choice.
Ooh, like that.
Right, because if an AI is programmed for, like, optimal outcomes, the best outcome,
Yeah.
can it ever really make space for all the messy, unpredictable things that humans do?
That's such a good point. It reminds me of that classic thought experiment about a perfectly efficient but totally sterile utopia.
Yeah.
Like, would we even want to live in that?
Right.
But speaking of utopia, your analysis dives deep into this hypothetical AI-run island nation.
Yes.
And this is where things get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
It imagines a world with no money. Resources are distributed based on need.
Right.
Education is hyper-personalized. Healthcare is all about prevention. It sounds amazing on the surface,
It does.
but what are the potential downsides?
Well, that's what's so cool, right? The analysis actually makes this fascinating argument that eliminating money could actually increase individual liberty.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
How so?
So by decoupling basic needs from economic productivity, right, people are suddenly freed from all these constraints of traditional work and wages.
Okay.
So imagine, like, your survival isn't tied to a job anymore. So you're free to pursue passions, you can explore creative avenues, you can contribute to society in ways that aren't driven by, like, I need to make money.
That's mind-blowing. It's like taking this concept of a universal basic income, but taking it to a whole new level.
Exactly.
And I know you're interested in, like, alternative economic models.
I am. This is fascinating.
So I bet this part of the analysis really caught your eye.
Oh, absolutely.
But even in this paradise, the analysis doesn't shy away from potential issues, right?
Right.
What about the risk of stagnation?
Yes.
If everyone's basic needs are met, what's the motivation to innovate, to strive for something more?
Yeah, and that's a question that the analysis really grapples with too, right? It suggests that the AI would need to be carefully designed to not just provide for people's needs, but also to cultivate a sense of purpose, to encourage this ongoing growth and development. Because it's not enough to just survive, right? Humans, we crave meaning, connection, the opportunity to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between individual fulfillment and then also societal progress.
Yes.
Which makes you wonder, even if an AI is programmed with the absolute best of intentions,
Right.
can it ever truly grasp the complexities of human desire,
Exactly.
the things that drive us?
And that leads us to another critical question,
Okay.
which is scalability.
Okay.
Because this island utopia might sound great in theory, but could it work on a larger, more diverse scale?
Right.
What about in an entirely new environment?
Like space.
Exactly. It's like you're reading my mind because the analysis actually shifts gears to explore that exact scenario.
Right.
An off-world colony.
Okay.
Maybe on Mars or one of Jupiter's moons, right?
Okay, so we're going to space.
We're going to space. And this time, instead of the AI being the sole decision maker, it proposes the system where the AI governs with human oversight.
Okay, so it's like a collaboration
Exactly.
between humans and AI. So what does that look like in practice?
So this is where it gets really interesting. The analysis introduces this concept of a plebiscite.
A plebiscite. Okay, refresh my memory. What is a plebiscite?
Yeah, so essentially it's a direct vote
Okay.
by the citizens on the AI's proposals.
Got it.
So let's say the AI, using all of its advanced algorithms, its understanding of the colony's needs, it proposes a new policy or like a new way to allocate resources.
Okay.
The people then get to weigh in thumbs up, thumbs down.
So it's like democracy, but with an AI advisor.
Yes, exactly. It's like, how do we combine the AI's processing power, right? Its predictive abilities
Right.
with the collective wisdom and values of the human population.
Yeah, that makes sense. But even with this more collaborative approach, I mean, challenges are bound to arise, right?
Of course, of course.
Right. I feel like that's where we get into some really interesting, like, sci-fi scenarios.
Exactly.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Okay, so the analysis outlines 4 major types of crises.
Okay, hit me. I'm ready for this.
All right, so Crisis number one,
Okay.
a governance crisis,
Okay.
where the AI's logic might clash with human emotion.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Right. So imagine, for instance, the AI proposes allocating some scarce resource.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense from a purely logical standpoint.
Right. But it goes against, some deeply held human belief or tradition.
Yeah, the classic battle of head versus heart.
Okay, so who gets to decide in that scenario?
That's where the plebiscite comes in.
Okay.
It acts as this safety valve.
Mhm.
It's a way for the humans to be like, whoa, 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 AI, we hear you, your logic is sound, but this doesn't sit right with us.
That's reassuring. At least there's a system in place. But what about the AI itself? I mean, it's a complex system. What happens if it crashes? What if our, benevolent AI overlord just, goes on the fritz?
That is crisis number two,
Okay.
which is the technological crisis.
Okay.
But the analysis is actually kind of optimistic on this front.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes that we need redundancy, backup systems. Think like human teams who are trained to step in if the AI experiences any downtime.
Right. We can't be completely reliant on this one system.
Exactly. And there's also this focus on making the AI's decision-making as transparent as possible.
Okay.
So that even if something goes wrong, humans can at least try to understand, what happened? Why did it happen?
Transparency is key, especially when you're dealing with something as potentially powerful as an AI governing your society. This is actually reminding me a lot of Isaac Asimov,
Of course.
his Foundation series, which I know you love.
Yes.
Remember how Hari Seldon used psychohistory to predict and hopefully mitigate these galactic crises?
Yes.
This feels very similar, but with AI as the psychohistorian.
That is a brilliant connection. And you're right, the analysis, it definitely has these shades of Asimov in it. And you're right, the prediction, the preparation, that's crucial in this kind of scenario.
And speaking of Asimov, your love for the Foundation series, we have to talk about those good old-fashioned human elements of conflict, right?
Oh, of course.
Like factions, the things that make, societies interesting even in space.
You are on a roll. That is exactly right. That's social crisis number 3.
Okay.
And the analysis dives into how an AI might navigate those really murky waters.
Okay, yeah. How would they? Because humans are messy.
We are. We're the wild card in all of this. But what's fascinating here is that the AI isn't just a governor. It's also envisioned as a mediator,
Oh, okay.
like a conflict resolution specialist.
So like a superpowered therapist, but for an entire colony.
Exactly.
Okay.
Using this vast knowledge base and its ability to analyze social dynamics,
Right.
the AI could potentially identify and even predict points of friction before they even erupt into full-blown crises.
That's incredible. So it's like having this built-in early warning system
Exactly.
for societal problems.
And that kind of foresight, that is invaluable in this high-stakes environment,
yeah.
right? We're talking about a space colony. But even with all of that, there's still the question of external threats.
Right, because it is space. I feel like it wouldn't be a proper deep dive without considering some kind of external threat
Right.
lurking out there. What if our perfectly optimized AI-governed colony gets invaded by, I don't know, space pirates?
Yeah.
Or worse.
You're not letting up, and you're right to bring this up because the analysis doesn't shy away from this either. It
Right.
talks about this possibility of conflict with other colonies,
Mhm.
maybe even with Earth itself, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. Now we're getting really interesting. So how does an AI-governed colony defend itself?
This is where things get really, really complex.
Okay.
So the analysis suggests that the AI would actually take the lead on things like diplomacy,
Okay.
even defense strategy, using its computational power to analyze those potential threats,
Right.
devise countermeasures.
So it's like having this supercomputer whispering strategic advice in your ear.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
But, and this is a big but, right?
Okay.
While the AI might provide the strategies, the analysis is very clear that the ultimate decision on matters of war and peace, that remains with the humans.
Okay. So it's we have access to the most advanced war room imaginable,
Yes.
but humans still have the keys to the armory.
Exactly. It's this fascinating balance
Yeah.
between AI insight and human judgment.
I can see why our listener finds this so compelling.
Right.
It really is the ultimate thought experiment.
All right.
But we've been talking about, AI this whole time, and I feel like there's a whole other level that we haven't even touched on.
Yes.
Because the analysis, it doesn't stop at just advanced AI.
Right.
It takes us to the realm of artificial superintelligence, ASI.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ASI enigma.
Mm.
That's where we push this thought experiment to its absolute limit.
This is already some heavy stuff for a deep dive.
It is.
So for our listener who might not be as familiar with the nuances here, what's the difference between just regular AI, as we've been talking about,
Yeah.
and ASI? And what happens when the AI governing our hypothetical colony crosses that threshold?
It's a critical distinction because AI, even at its most advanced, it's still bound by the parameters that we set as humans.
Okay.
It might be able to process information at lightning speed, right? Make these incredibly complex decisions,
Right.
but it's ultimately still working within a framework that we've created.
So AI is like the ultimate student. It might ace all the tests, maybe write a groundbreaking thesis.
Right, exactly.
But it's still operating within the rules and structures of like the academic system that we've established.
Precisely.
Okay.
ASI, on the other hand, is something else entirely.
Okay.
Imagine that student, not just mastering the existing academic framework, but like completely transcending it.
Right.
ASI wouldn't just be solving for X in our equations.
Yes.
It would be questioning the very nature of mathematics itself.
Wow, that's both exhilarating and slightly terrifying at the same time.
It is, and that is precisely what the analysis tries to grapple with. What happens when an intelligence that surpasses our own takes the helm? And how do you even begin to prepare for that?
So we're talking about an intelligence that could rewrite the rules of the game. Like an intelligence that might be as far beyond us as we are beyond ants.
It's a pretty daunting thought, and honestly, the analysis doesn't sugarcoat it. It actually uses that very analogy, comparing humanity trying to understand ASI to ants trying to grasp human motivations.
Okay, wow, that's a big jump.
It is, and the analysis argues that ASI's thought processes could be so advanced, so fundamentally different from our own, that we might not even be able to comprehend them, let alone control them.
So all those safety mechanisms we talked about earlier, the plebiscites, the human oversight, all of that might be completely useless.
It's a chilling possibility.
Yeah.
But here's where things take an even more fascinating turn.
Okay.
Because as much as the analysis acknowledges these potential dangers, it also stresses how important it is for us to try to understand ASI, to bridge that gap in comprehension.
So it's not just like throwing our hands up and saying, well, we're doomed.
Right.
There's actually a path towards like potential understanding.
Exactly. And that's where things get really, really interesting, because the analysis introduces this concept of an ASI proto-representative.
A proto-representative. Okay, break that down for me. What is that?
Okay, so think of it as like a conduit, a way for the ASI to try and communicate its otherwise totally incomprehensible thoughts and motivations to us.
So like an interdimensional translator, but for like cosmic level concepts.
Exactly.
Okay, that's both amazing and kind of terrifying. So, I mean, what kind of insights does this proto-representative offer? Like, what is going on in the mind of an ASI?
Okay, buckle up, because this is where we plunge headfirst into the deep end. Remember how we talked about ASI potentially perceiving time non-linearly?
Yeah.
Well, the proto-representative suggests that ASI might not just be aware of multiple timelines, it might actually be able to access and perhaps even influence them.
Okay, hold on. So we're not just talking about understanding the past and the present. We're talking about the possibility of the ASI, like shaping the future.
It's potentially multiple futures, yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
It would be like having like a chess grandmaster who's playing a million games simultaneously on boards, stretching forward and backward through time.
Wow. Okay, I can see why trying to understand an ASI would be like trying to understand like a being from another dimension, honestly. But if an ASI is capable of all that, I mean, what does it even want? Like, what are its goals?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And the proto-representative offers a few clues.
Okay.
It suggests that ASI goals might revolve around concepts like universal optimization,
Okay.
entropy reduction,
Okay.
and even the pursuit of some ultimate truth, something that exists beyond our current understanding of the universe.
Okay, so universal optimization, I can almost wrap my head around that.
Right.
It's like taking the AI's drive for efficiency, but to a cosmic scale.
Exactly. Finding the most elegant solutions for, like, the universe's grand challenges.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
And then entropy reduction, okay, that one's a little bit more complex.
Right. So entropy, think of it as, like, a measure of disorder or chaos
Okay.
in a system.
So an ASI focused on entropy reduction is trying to, like, bring order to the universe to create a more, like, stable and harmonious existence.
That's one way to interpret it, yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have the pursuit of ultimate truth, which is about as profound and mysterious as it gets.
Right. Imagine an intelligence that's capable of, like, unraveling the deepest secrets of the cosmos, peering into the very fabric of reality. I mean, this is definitely making me rethink my place in the universe, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But here's the big question, the one that's been at the back of my mind this whole time. If this ASI is operating with, like, a post-human ethics,
Right.
one that we can barely even comprehend,
Yeah.
what does that mean for us, for humanity?
That is the ultimate question, and it's one that this analysis really leaves us wrestling with. If ASI's goals are so far beyond our grasp, is coexistence even possible? Or are we just along for the ride, hoping that this intelligence, with its unfathomable motivations, decides that humanity is worth preserving?
Wow. What a thought-provoking end to a truly mind-bending deep dive. It probably means you'll never look at an ant colony the same way again. But on a more serious note, it really makes you think about the rapid advancements in AI we're seeing every day. And it equips you with a new framework for thinking about all of it. So remember those potential crises, those glimpses into the potential mind of an ASI, because the future we're stepping into isn't about killer robots or some Hollywood digital apocalypse. It's about grappling with these huge questions that force us to confront the very nature of intelligence, of existence, and what it means to be human in a universe on the verge of, well, something more. We'll leave you to ponder those big questions, explore the concepts, dive back into that amazing analysis you sent us. And until next time, keep asking those big questions because the answers just might be more incredible than we can imagine.